physicians 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Right. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something.
For poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option, number one.
Joe, you agreed with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto, we call it, and that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying
I'm not
you
going
didn't
to
agree?
listen to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy, the wrong
Talk,
night
Joe.
at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
Disavowing.
There is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my first ever podcast. This is my own personal take on the recent American presidential debates and political and social topics in general. If you like what you hear, then please like this video and hit that subscribe button, and maybe I'll make more content in the near future. Yet more history was made in the Trump era with the first ever debate between the 45th U.S. President and former Vice President, U.S. Senator, and three-time presidential candidate Joe Biden. The event took place in Cleveland, Ohio. In a nutshell, it was contentious and adversarial, but also informative and still a thrill to watch. So in this first video, I would like to explain why I personally feel that President Trump came out as the clear winner, in spite of the left-leaning moderator, in spite of Biden's personal insults and many false claims, even in spite of the entire journalistic and political establishment praying for the president's downfall. Trump still won, and here's why. The first topic introduced by the debate moderator, Fox News' Chris Wallace, related to the recent Trump nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court of Circuit Judge and strict originalist Amy Coney Barrett. Though the main topic quickly devolved into several side issues, we did learn a few things from the debate discussion, and here they are. First, Trump agrees with the late former Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg that the president, quote, is elected for 4 and not 3 years, quote. Therefore, the president has every right to try to get his replacement justice confirmed whenever he wants.
As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
This was extremely interesting because the president, right away, turned the tables against the Democrats and Joe Biden, arguing during the debate that the main problem with the Democrats' failed attempt to confirm Judge Merrick Garland to replace former Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia just prior to the 2016 presidential elections was not that it didn't happen, as Obama and Biden would have liked, but because of this. The Democrats lost the Senate and so didn't have the necessary votes to confirm Judge Garland to the Supreme Court. Indeed, President Trump pointed out the very obvious reality that had Obama and Biden's Democrat Party held a majority in the U.S. Senate back in 2016, they would have surely also voted to confirm Judge Garland, even just before a presidential election.
And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her, and very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election. So they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
As former President Obama once smugly lectured us, elections have consequences. Indeed, they do. And with the GOP's ability to take the Senate in 2014, this meant that the Dems couldn't have their way with the Supreme Court. Let's not forget, too, folks, that the former Vice President Joe Biden himself seemed to once agree with President Trump's debate claim about the necessity and correctness of a president confirming a justice to the Supreme Court, even in a limited time frame and just prior to a presidential election. The following is from 2016.
I made it absolutely clear that I would go forward with the confirmation process as chairman, even a few months before a presidential election, if the nominee were chosen with the advice and not merely the consent of the Senate, just as the Constitution requires.
Now, when the shoe's on the other foot, Vice President Biden claims that we should wait until after the election.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president.
The people did have a vote, remember, Mr. Biden? In fact, they've had 2 votes in the Trump era. They elected Trump in 2016, and they elected a strengthened GOP majority to the justice-confirming U.S. Senate in 2018, during the supposed year of the Democrat blue wave. Biden also added the usual boilerplate Democrat scaremongering stuff, such as, this will end Roe v. Wade, and that Roe v. Wade is now on the ballot, though Judge Barrett herself has stated that it was very unlikely, quote unquote, the court would overturn Roe versus Wade.
The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's
begun.
on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the
said
ballot? It's not on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And
just
you don't
be quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right. Let's talk.
Biden also alleged that Judge Barrett's nomination will, quote, take away health care coverage for 100 million with pre-existing conditions. This I found rather ridiculous assertion, since if you've been paying any attention to President Trump's near 4-year push to repeal Obamacare, you'll know that the president has guaranteed on countless occasions that any health care plan he signs into law must continue coverage for just such patients with pre-existing conditions. In short, the coverage for pre-existing conditions part of Obamacare isn't going away anytime soon, even if the individual mandate tax is. Naturally, the loss of Justice Ginsburg's profoundly leftist activism on the Supreme Court bench, and her potential replacement by a Justice Barrett who intends to strictly read the Constitution for its original intent, has radicalized the Democrats even more in 2020. Or perhaps it would be more correct to say that Trump's nomination has simply revealed the radicalization we always knew had been festering inside all these so-called progressive Democrats. So much so that if they cannot get their way in replacing Ginsburg with an equally activist leftist alternative, they are now demanding a wholesale packing or expansion of the number of justices that would comprise future U.S. Supreme Court benches. By way of reference, the current composition of the court stands and has long stood at a tie-breaking 9 justices. However, when President Trump, with some tepid help from the rather biased moderator, Chris Wallace, pressed Joe Biden during the debate to publicly state whether he was in favor of such court-packing schemes, Biden pointedly refused.
Mr. Vice President, if Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't
you're
wanna
a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
you want to put a
is
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Right, gentlemen, I think we've ended this.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
He's not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years, you've done nothing. They understand.
All right, the second subject.
To my mind, this should reinforce to the average citizen that former Vice President Joe Biden is, in reality, very duplicitous in keeping his true political aims concealed during the final stretch of the campaign, and that these real political and, one fears, much more radical aims will only be revealed after the people have given him power. One only needs to recall how Biden's former boss, President Barack Hussein Obama, did the very same strategy: pretend to be a moderating force when trying to get elected, then radicalize and shift to the far left once safely ensconced in power. Therefore, the victory of President Trump in forcing a flustered Biden to publicly refuse to say just what kind of justice he would like to see appointed to the Supreme Court prior to the election serves to reinforce the idea that, since Biden was after all a third or fourth choice for most rank-and-file leftists voting in the early 2020 Democrat primaries, Biden must be seen as nothing more than a weak compromise candidate whose claims of being moderate will very likely give way to radicalization when under pressure once his party's leftists also take power alongside him. And this is a definite concern for any patriot wishing to check the radical advancement of leftist lunacy and the far-left notion that government is a solution to absolutely everything, coming from the Democrat base and in the U.S. House. Think Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, AOC and the Squad, Black Lives Matter, and so on. Many, if not most, of these groupings have publicly crowed about their ability to push Biden to the left, puppet-like, should he ever win control of the White House. To me, that's beyond scary, and is a prospect that can only be negated by Trump keeping the White House, along with, hopefully, the GOP retaking the House and keeping the Senate as well. By the way, did I mention that Biden's own running mate, Senator Kamala Harris of California, is publicly, quote, open, end quote, to packing the court? At any rate, if all goes well in the Senate in the following weeks, President Trump should see the controversy related to seating a new Supreme Court justice during an election year settled prior to the November election in the form of a game-changing appointment of one Amy Coney Barrett. The president's party appears to have the votes in the Senate, so there's little the Democrats can do other than complain or riot in the streets at this point. So, I give this first section of the debate to the president. Trump was logical but forceful in claiming his constitutional right as president to go through with the nomination, as well as the Senate's constitutional right to confirm that nominee should they have the votes. Joe Biden, by contrast, saw his moderate credentials severely and openly questioned in regards to the court, so much so that Joe's bald refusal to name his own candidate, coupled with his party's court-packing plans and Biden's recent move to the left on almost every other issue, should all be seen as troubling trends that independents and conservative U.S. voters need to keep in mind when they go to vote over the next few weeks.